My name is Tom Holland. I'm coming to you from Jackson, Wyoming tonight. I am the owner and director of Wilderness Adventures. At Wilderness Adventures, we run student adventure travel in the summer months. We also have a residential camp, Camp New Fork, and a couple of day camps, Base Camp and Missoula Outdoor Learning Adventures. We're thrilled to bring you this webinar tonight with Michael Thompson. And on this call, listening in, we have camp parents, camp professionals from lots of different camps across the country. And we're thrilled to talk with Michael. Now, Michael and I became acquainted about 16 years ago when we were both on the national board of the American Camp Association. And Michael had just come out with, a few years before, he become nationally recognized for his work on Raising Cain, an amazing book, if you've never read it, about raising boys and something everyone should check out. And while we were friends in those years on the board, he also came out with another wonderful book called Homesick and Happy. And it came out in 2012. And tonight's conversation, as we hit May, we at Wilderness Adventures, we know that parents are beginning to see summer. It's starting to happen. And Michael and I have been friends since then, and we always talk about the opportunity of summer camp, what it can mean for kids. And we hatched this plan to have this conversation this evening about the impacts of summer camp and what parents should be considering as you head into summer, what staff should be considering as well. Now, everyone, this is going to be a conversation with Michael and I, but we want you to be involved. So the way you can do that is you can throw questions in the chat. We will try to get to as many of those questions as we can in the hour that we have with Michael. And so I want to just dive right in, Michael. I just want to get after it
Absolutely.
because we only have so much time. So you wrote Homesick and Happy, Michael,
Yep.
in
Can
2012.
everybody see the cover with the boy going
Oh, yeah.
into the cabin with his bag? I love that cover. Of all my book covers, I love that one the best.
Um, so you wrote it in 2012.
Yeah.
Okay. Since then, so many things have happened, right, in our
Yep.
world. When it comes to kids going away to summer camp, what do you think has changed the most in kids and in parents since then?
Parent anxiety. But we currently have the most conscientious, devoted, loving cohort of parents. Educated parents, parents who could afford a camp or think about a camp for their child, um, are really, really devoted to the idea of doing the best thing they can for their child. But they are held back by their anxiety. And I've spent a lot of time writing about why parent anxiety has changed so much and the kind of traps that parents get into, caught by their own worries. I know, and you know, Tom, because you sent me this, someone who said that she had benefited enormously from an away camp experience when she was a teenager. But now, as a mother, she asked you the question, why am I so scared? Why am I so worried? When it worked for me and I grew so much from it, why am I so frightened to send my child? That's the modern parental dilemma.
And do you think something, okay, so we, Michael, I went to programs myself. I went to Wilderness Adventures, everybody. The mom that we're talking about, that's a Wilderness Adventures mom who went on Wilderness Adventures. Um, what is it that happened to us in that? Like, I know I'm the guy who runs the program, right? I'm the guy who runs the program, and yet, in today's day and age, there is this piece of worry, and we like to think back with that nostalgia of like, oh, it was so great in the '80s and the '70s when it was just more free and open, and honest to goodness, camps also are working really, really hard to make sure those programs, we didn't have satellite telephones, we didn't have the communication systems, we didn't have all the policies and procedures that we now have. What has changed in that time frame?
I just want to say that I benefited enormously from a camp in Northern Ontario, a wilderness canoeing camp, where I went for 7 weeks, and I never had phone contact. Never mind email or text. I mean, I just never had contact for 7 weeks with my parents. They put me on a train in New York, and I ended up in Northern Ontario. And it was one of the most important summers of my life, and has stayed with me. So I've thought a lot about what happens to parents, and I wrote a chapter, the first chapter of Homesick and Happy. I had titled it "Eight Things You Cannot Do for Your Children But Wish You Could," and
And the slide's up
thank you
here,
for
so
that.
we can look at those things right now.
Yeah, uh, every parent wants to do these things for their child. And I have to say, as a psychologist, that you can't. You can't always make your children happy. Um, American parents always want their children to be happy, but if you are always insisting that your child be happy, they'll have you jumping through hoops. It's not that children are manipulative, but if they can take advantage of your wish to have them be happy, they can manipulate you with their unhappiness. In childhood, there are going to be times when you're not very happy because you don't have much power, you don't have much control, and people boss you around. And a lot of, as the Irish poet Seamus Heaney uh, observed, he said, childhood is about getting accustomed to disappointment. When I heard him say that, I thought that is un-American. But it takes an Irish poet, a Nobel laureate, to lay it out. Childhood is about getting accustomed to disappointment. And as a parent, if you're always trying to make your child happy and you're not allowing them to bear disappointment and find a way out of it. I get a lot of parents who ask, how do I give my child self-esteem? How do I give my child self-confidence? The answer is you can't. Children get self-confidence by accomplishing, mastering developmentally appropriate tasks. So when a mother says to me, I want a super self-confident kindergarten boy, I think, really, you can't be self-confident when you're 5.5. You're very short, you have no money, no car keys. People tell you when to take a bath and when to go to bed. It's hard to be self-confident when you're being bossed around by grown-ups that way. You can have some very self-confident days, and you can have some very discouraged days, and you can have some disappointments, especially if you have an older brother, as I did, because you're always looking up and playing up and competing up with somebody bigger, stronger, faster. That's part of childhood. So we can't hand our child self-esteem. We can't manage our child's friendships for them. We can't double as our child's manager, agent, and coach. I've worked at a very athletic school, all boys school outside Boston. I was at Belmont Hill School. I was their psychologist for 31 years. And I saw a lot of fathers try this, and it just wears out the relationship as kids come into their teenage years. Um, it, I see parents struggling with their children's online life, uh, not willing to set limits or are getting tired of the battling, and the kids are willing to wear them down. But the two killers here that I think account for the most anxiety is that uh, you can't keep your child perfectly safe. You cannot keep your child perfectly safe. Let me tell you a story. A mother told me, well, she came up to me after a talk. She said, Dr. Thompson, I feel as if I just can't stop driving my children to school. And I feel like they're too old for it, but I can't stop. I said, all right, I hear the self-reproach. How old are your children? And she said, 11, 9, and 8. And I said, how far away is the school? And she said, 3 blocks.
Okay.
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 Now she knew deep down that she shouldn't be driving her children to school. The 11-year-old can walk the 8 and the 9-year-old to school, 3 blocks. Okay. It's safe, but she's driving them because it gives her the feeling of protecting her children and of being in control. And she can't let go of it. I was once on Mercer Island. Mercer Island is about the safest upper middle class community you can. It's an island off Seattle, right? And there are all these beautiful paths carved through the woods so that many children could walk to school. But I was in the public school on Mercer Island, and there was just a gigantic line of SUVs lined up at the end of the school day, and no children were walking, even though everybody'd moved to Mercer Island because it was so safe. So, no one trusts their children being away from them. Every parent wants, or most parents these days want the feeling that their child is safe with them. I give a terrible statistic to parents, which is that 5 children a week in the United States die in a car accident, almost always with their parents driving. So having your child in a car on the American roads doesn't make them perfectly safe, but it gives the parent the feeling that their child is protected and safe. And finally, in this list of 8, we cannot make our children independent. As long as you're looking over your child's shoulder, as long as you're at your child's team sport, you're you're there to be supportive. You're there to cheer them on. I get it. I watched my daughter play so much town soccer. It was my entertainment on Wednesdays and Saturdays for years. But the flip side of the coin is the game is never really hers or his as long as the parent is there. Because parental presence accidentally takes away the child's psychological ownership of it. The child is out on the soccer field and she has to think about what are my opponents like? What is the coach thinking? How are my teammates playing? But she also has to think, what are my dad and mom thinking of the game? Is my dad going to debrief me in the car? And research shows that most kids who drop out of town sports do so because they get tired of the dad debrief in the car. They don't they don't want to share their sport. So I was once at a school in Arlington, Massachusetts, my hometown, and a mother said, "But we always go to our daughter's games." I said, "Oh, me too." She said, "But I mean, we're that kind of family." I said, "But your presence doesn't always add value." And she said, "But we're the kind of family who always goes to our daughter's games." I said, I hear you. What I am arguing is you don't always add value to the child's experience. And at times, unwittingly, accidentally, you're taking something away. And the mother went right after me again. But we're the kind of family, because her definition of a good family was we're always there. We're
Right.
always present. And finally, I turned to my audience. It was at a elementary school in Arlington. I said, if I got a young woman who was an athlete and played town sports growing up, and happily there was about a 28-year-old teacher there. And she said, yes. And I said, did you always want your parents at the games? And she said, well, when I was little, I did. But when I got older, I liked going to play a game and coming home and telling my parents about it. And I thought, bless you. That was the answer I was looking for. You wanted a separate experience from your parents where you had full ownership and you could come back and tell them. But it didn't belong to them because they didn't watch it. They didn't have an opinion about the way it went or what the coach said to you. It was yours. And psychological ownership is huge for me. I think it's a child knowing I own this, I did it, I succeeded, or I failed. I got my up and dusted myself off and threw myself back into it. Those are experiences that if you are present, your child can't have in the same way.
So then, Michael, and for everybody listening, if you do have questions, throw them in the chat box. We will try to
Oh
get back.
yeah, I want to answer questions. I'm
Yes.
I'm almost done talking here.
Oh, go. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
Cut
no,
you off.
not at all. I'm encouraging them to write questions because that's I'm just gonna stop with the talking around 20 minutes if that's okay, Tom,
Yeah, yeah.
and see if we got questions coming in.
Let's see here. Yeah, we got a few.
All right, send more.
Okay. Wait. Okay. So go here, Michael. That's chapter
What?
one of your book, Homesick and
Yeah,
Happy. This is all about the value of summer camp. Okay.
yep. I love you promoting my book. Thank you, Tom.
There you go. Yep, you see that. So if you haven't read it, you should check it out. Parents, give it a look. So, why do you lead with that and then go into summer camp?
Well, because I've said you can't make your child independent when you are there. The only way you can make your child independent is to open the door, open it wide, and allow your child to step out, to go play in the neighborhood, go play on a team, or ultimately, when they're ready, to go to sleepaway camp or some kind of adventure experience. Now, I happen to have interviewed the humor writer Dave Barry. I hope many people remember Dave Barry. He wrote for the Miami Herald for many years. But he happened to have been a counselor at a camp for underprivileged kids in New York State. And my brother was a camp counselor with him. So my brother arranged for me to talk to Dave Barry. And Dave Barry, uh, uh, I don't think he gives a lot of interviews, but certainly not on this subject. But here he was, a camp parent. And I said, have you got a child you've sent to camp? And he said, yes, I sent my 9-year-old daughter. And he said, and I'm furious about it. I said, really? What are you so upset and angry about? And Dave Barry said, well, she came back from sleepaway camp and it's all she talks about. And she had a wonderful time and she had so much fun and I wasn't there.
Oh my gosh, that's good.
She had fun, and I, the dad, wasn't there. And I thought, thank you, Dave Barry. That goes in the book with other stories about his being a counselor at a camp. Um, but I loved that he was so succinct in the way of comics, right? I'm furious that my daughter had a good time and I didn't get to watch.
Good. All right.
So, yeah, please.
The questions are rolling in, Michael.
All
Okay.
right, we
So
got to do questions.
yeah.
I'm on.
Okay. We're gonna. I think there's a homesickness theme here, so I'm gonna hit you here. But we got a question, and it is, can you touch on the best way to say goodbye when leaving your elementary age child at camp for the first time? I was thinking of having a more in-depth goodbye the night before with a brief, you got this. So I'm so excited for you. See you soon. Hug and go. Like, setting kids up for success at camp as a parent. Like, what's the best way to do it?
Well, you first of all, um, you're you're sending a late elementary school child off to camp. You got to make sure that she's having sleepovers. He's having sleepovers, whether it's with an aunt or an uncle, grandparents, or with a friend, somebody else's house. You're giving them some practice at being away from you. You don't want them to go off to camp with no practice at being away from you. It would be too hard for them, and it would be too hard for you. So you're actually both getting the practice.
Right.
Okay. So you're doing the sleepovers, and about 3 weeks before they go off to camp, when the child's focused on it, you say, "Are you worried about homesickness?" And you do a little interview, a little clinical interview. Are you worried about homesickness? And your son says, "Yeah." He's 9. "Yeah. Can you tell me what you're worried about?" "Well, I'm afraid I'll miss my bed. I'm afraid I miss my pillow. I'm afraid I miss you. I'm afraid miss my dog." "Yes, and you probably will." And you just acknowledge that homesickness is a likelihood. Chris Thurber, the American psychologist, is the psychologist for Phillips Exeter Academy, has written more papers on homesickness than anybody else, and it's not a disease. He's a clinical psychologist. He wrote his dissertation on it, um, and because he wanted to write a dissertation that he could do while he was a counselor at a summer camp, a YMCA camp in New Hampshire. he he was Berkeley getting a Ph.D., but
Smart guy.
he always wanted to be back in New Hampshire at his camp. He told me this. I wrote about him in the book. He's a wonderful fellow. He said 98% of kids experience some homesickness. So
98%. 98%. Yeah.
98%. And of those, there are 2% who deny that they ever had a moment of homesickness. Chris Thurber doesn't believe it. He thinks it's a universal human experience. It means you have a home you love, parents you love, things you're going to miss. Duh. So the important thing is to understand whether you have a kid who's going to be in the 81% of kids who have transitory homesickness. 2, 3 days, maybe 4 or 5 days, some crying at night, some crying in the morning, but then they get engaged and it goes away. Okay? It's
Yeah.
not, don't jump in your car and drive up to camp. Don't tell your child, "Look, if you're homesick on day 2, we'll be up there to pick you up." Because then
That's
you're robbing your child of the chance to feel homesick, to feel sad, and then to work through it. Now, according to Chris Thurber's research, which is wonderful, about 18% of kids, 19% of kids, you got 81% of transitory homesickness, 19% of significant distress.
19.
And for them, the crying may go on and off. I interviewed so many kids and so many counselors who themselves had experienced homesickness. I'll go up to that same camp in Northern Ontario in June, and I'll talk to the counselors about their experience from what do they remember of their own homesickness when they first went away to camp. I've done that. It's so much fun to talk to college kids about when they were homesick 10-year-olds or 11-year-olds. I remember a girl, a young woman who, as a girl, was so determined to go to camp, but so afraid of being homesick that her parents would stop on the drive up to the camp in Vermont. They would stop 3 times for ice cream. They, she had a triple ice cream day on the drive up to camp. And she told me now in her 20s that as a counselor at the camp, when she drives up there from college, she still makes those 3 stops. Those are historic, traditional stops for her. So she's, even as a counselor, she's saying, "I'm going to miss home and I'm going to comfort myself in a way that my parents comforted me. And then I'll go to camp and I'll be a terrific counselor and I'll look after kids and I'll help them with their homesickness." But this is part of growing up. It is not a disease. It is not clinical anxiety. For kids who have had clinical anxiety, who've been in treatment for anxiety, camp is a much more fraught experience. And many of those kids, their parents don't send them, and that's probably the right decision.
Yeah. So, so that, I should also say for the camp professionals that are on there and parents that are listening, this is a union of all of us. Homesickness is something we talk about all the time as camp professionals. This is like water at camp, right? You got to have training in homesickness and you got to have the water, right? So it's something we talk about a lot. So that question that hug goodbye is it a the kid's gone to overnights? Do you send them out the door? And I got a follow-up question beyond that too.
Take them up to camp, give them a hug and a kiss, tell them to have a great time. Try not to cry yourself until you are out of sight of the child. Don't go in and tuck in their bed. We've got these parents down doing that with kids in college. They have to redo the room and tell you, go away, go away.
Yeah.
Don't prolong the moment.
No, I think that's
The
yeah,
kid
go
is
ahead.
going to get engaged. Look, what you have to know as a parent is when you drop your child off, there's a set of counselor eyes on your child. They are watching the goodbye and they're waiting for the parent to go so they can swoop in and make contact with the kid and connect with the kid. That's absolute basic for a camp counselor. Don't you
Yeah.
think, Tom?
Well, oh, that's 101. Yes, we are watching the parent. We're waiting for the moment, and we come in and sweep in
Yep.
and take the kid and get them active. And I do think I want to reiterate the point that you said, um, making promises that are going to be tough to keep. Kids will latch onto those. If it's not working out, we will come get you. That doesn't work out so well.
So in my one of my chapters on homesick in the book Homesick and Happy, I interviewed a girl who went to an arts camp in Connecticut. And the arts camp was sort of very therapeutic minded. And this girl was really homesick. And her parents kept coming up to see her. And then she would be comforted briefly, but then the parents would leave. And then she would have to go through the whole desperate, painful goodbye again. And she'd cling to their legs and they'd have to sort of pry her hands off it. And she said, looking back on it, she was a third year camper when I interviewed her. Looking back on it, she said that just made things worse. It made things much worse to have my parents keep coming up. Uh, a ton of parent phone calls only inflame the homesickness. A kid who might be able to get over it in 3 days or 4 days, with too much parental intervention, you can keep it going for 2 weeks.
Right. Okay. What about touching on this, if you're a parent, can you send too many letters? We got a question about letters here. Can you speak about letter writing at camp? How frequently should you write? What tone should we use? And then I want to do the counter. That's from a parent. Uh, Inevitably, some of these parents, like I did with my own children on my program, they wrote a desperate letter home, Michael. A desperate,
You're
right?
not the first camp director whose own children have tortured.
Tortured. And I
So,
received this, and parents, they're on my program, right? And they're saying,
so I,
talk to me.
I met a man out in Western Massachusetts, head of all the YMCA camps in Massachusetts. He had been head of all the YMCA camps in Minnesota. He moved to Massachusetts, part of I guess, a promotion. Hey, but when he sent his daughter off to camp, he decided she needs not to go to my camp. So he sent her back to Minnesota. And she wrote him a letter. And she said, Dad, I really want to make camp a success. It's just that I'm throwing up 2 or 3 times a day. I just want to come home to see a doctor to discuss this medical condition. Try and say no to me, Dad. I'm throwing up 2 or 3 times a day. Well, he called the director of the camp where his daughter was, and nobody had seen anything like that.
Yeah.
And that gave him the courage to say, no, sweetie, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So here's my deal. There's a modern, there are now these Cabin One and stuff like that that have convinced camps that to to deliver emails printed out on the printer in the camp office. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I don't think children need to be immediately in touch with their parents. I think that's more the parent need.
Mm.
I think parents should write as much as you want, write on your station, write on stationery. If you're a mom, put a couple of drops of perfume on the letters and write in hand, in your handwriting. I have seen campers keep their parents' letters in a plastic bag and open them up and smell them and look at them and look at the handwriting and smell them again, seal it back up and put it away. That is, my mom loves me. My mom's here for me. And my dear friend and colleague Annie Fischel, who runs the family therapy program at the Mass General Hospital, said that um, when her mom died, almost the only handwritten correspondence she had from her mother was the letters her mother had written to her at summer camp.
Mm.
But when she went to New York to clean out her mom's apartment, she found all of the letters she'd written from camp tied with a ribbon, and her mother had kept all of her letters. And she had her mother's correspondence to her, and her mother was keeping her correspondence that Annie had sent to her mother. I I mean that to be touching. I want parents to remember that. That's so much more important than speed. The
Yeah.
speed is a parent need, not a child need.
So talk about that a little bit. You know, I have four children. I all of them have gone to camp programs in the summertime. I think something that's really interesting between 2012 and now is when this book came out, we were talking about phones and social media, and I think resoundingly parents said we need to get kids off, and I think they're still saying that, but they go through a detachment themselves. It's a little kid sick,
Yeah,
right?
well, of course, it's
Um,
kid sicknesses, and I see a lot of it.
how prep us for that. How do I work through that emotion? The emotion of seeing your maybe a camp puts pictures out, right? Maybe there's a letters home. How do we prepare to not have this device, which
Yeah,
so many of us are now connected to our kid?
I know we're used to tracking our kids and talking to them multiple times a day, but parents are having to get used to it now that schools are banning phones.
Yep.
And no, we're as hooked on these devices as the kids are. It's not just the kids. And we have to do self-coaching. And that's why I believe that if you're constantly in touch with a child at camp, you're undermining the child's experience and you're undermining the child's independence. You don't mean to, but you are. So I was in Hawaii once at Seabury Hall School, and a mother had sent her child, she'd put him on a jet plane and sent him to California to camp. That's a big deal, you know? That's a 5-hour flight to California from
Totally.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
And she said every morning she was on the camp website trying to look for a photo. And she did that for the whole first year. And then she realized that her seeing a photo of her son at camp didn't add any value to his camp experience. He came home, he didn't know she'd been on it. He didn't mention that. The experiences he had at his camp in California were all his, independent from his parents, in California while they were in Hawaii. And she said the second year, I coached myself and I didn't go on to look for photos because I realized it didn't have anything to do with his camp experience. It was all about me.
Yeah.
So I think parents need to do some self-coaching. But you got a question about starter camps that popped up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on starter camps, meaning 5 days? Okay. Will that offer enough time to acclimate into camp life and work through homesickness?
Yeah, I think many, many camps have gone to a 5 day or a 1 week starter camp. And I think it's mainly for the parents, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine. But I think you should be honest with your child and say it's a starter camp. Get you used to it so you can do a 2 week camp or 1 month camp. I think you should tell, if you have wishes for your child's independence, you should be upfront about that. Say to an 8-year-old, I'm hoping you go to a 5 day camp. And later on, when you're more grown up, you can go to a 2 week camp or 1 month camp. Let them know it's a progression. It's a growing up progression.
Here's another one for you. So, my 11-year-old loved his camp experience last year. He was homesick, but overall happy.
Yeah,
He is nervous to go back and says he
yeah,
doesn't want to go. It's a great place and he will be safe and have fun and probably homesick. But how do I say you're going? And it will be great without worrying that he's going to feel like I'm forcing him. Basically, this person says, basically, tell me that he's not going to be traumatized by making him go.
yeah. He's not going to be traumatized by making him go.
He said it. He right there. All right. Nailed it.
This kind of, he knows he knows the feeling he's going to have at the beginning of the second year. Many campers have a bout of homesickness that they wish they didn't have, but it's they know it's going to be kind of painful, even in the second year, but they know the taste of it in their mouths. And so they start, I get so many calls. Tom, you have no idea how many parents call me and say, my first successful year, but he was so excited in fall or December when we signed him up. And now as it gets close, he's getting cold feet. And I think you're going to say two things to your son if he's getting cold feet. You say, I want you to go. I want you to go, and you're going to be fine. You may be a little homesick, but you're going to be fine. I want you to go. What does that mean? I want you to go. Am I forcing my child to go? No. What you're saying to your child is, I want you to grow up. I want you to be a big boy. We do this when we toilet train kids. We tell them, I'm tired of changing your diaper. Get your act together. Grow up, right? It's
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's time. There are many moments in a child's life when a parent has to say, it's time. You were independent and you had a great summer last summer. I want you to go back because I think you're going to have that again.
Is there a different tactic that you would take with a child that's never gone before, had great sleepaway experiences at a friend's house, and you're like, no, you need to do this. Is there a different tactic that you would take? I think that
I
encouraging some
I think
parents.
I'm sweetie, I love you. I'm pretty sure you can do this. And I think you'll feel great if you do it.
Yeah.
It's it's a vote of confidence in your child's developing self. It's a big step. Acknowledge that. They're going to be homesick. There are things they're going to miss. Acknowledge that. There are things going to make them nervous. Acknowledge that. It's not easy to sleep in a cabin with 10 people. It's not easy to change your clothes in front of other people. There are things that makes kids nervous. Completely understandable. But they're really actually pretty healthy experiences.
That's great. Uh, Giving some love here to the day camp folks out there. We love you, day camp people. Um, so, what words of advice do you have for first-time parents who are sending their kids off to a day camp? Okay, maybe a younger population, maybe not. Gone for 7 hours in the day. Some of these parents they reach out, they call, they ask questions throughout the day. What advice do you have for them?
It's like school, only much better.
I totally agree.
No
Totally agree.
grades, no grades, no tests. It's 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 Tom, you and I and both are fans of Scott Brody. and he
Yes.
was on the Camp Association board with us. Scott Brody says that, and he has a very successful day camp in Sharon, Massachusetts. He says camps are all about picking your own friends, making your own friends, and having really good times with them. And how great is that, right? And you don't have a teacher chiding you, and you don't have a teacher interrupting your friendships to give you tests, and you don't have to go off to learning specialist. You just get to go hang with your friends. For many kids in super protected environments, um, day camps are free play. They're neighborhood play. And I'm 79 years old. The biggest change in childhood in my lifetime is the death of free multi-age neighborhood play. It was everything to me growing up. And it's almost gone and in American life. And the closest thing you can get to it, if there are any parents out there who are nostalgic for neighborhood play, it's summer day camp.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one an example from our day camp is we can turn kids loose and we can say the goal is fairy houses, and they will go into the dirt and for hours with their friends just concoct these things all together. And it is such a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing to see that free play in action. This is a great question. So, unlike other sleepaway experience, camp is unique in that, for good reasons, kids are not permitted the means to external communication. This makes it especially important for parents to do some basic vetting of the camp.
Yes.
Apart from close referrals, do we know any other resources that might exist?
Yeah, the most powerful thing is word of mouth from other parents. That's the thing that a parent can trust the most. But I believe that you have to have a good gut feeling about the camp director. The camp director is hiring all these young people, college age students. He's got or she's got some senior administrative folk who've been in the business for a long time. But the majority of the work is done by people between the age of 18 and 25. Is that true?
Yes.
So you need somebody who you're vetting the camp director, but you're seeing, is this a person who's a good judge of character? Is this a person whose moral center I trust? I've been consulting to a camp for 20 years, and every summer the camp director has to fire two people he's hired because they screw up, and he has to send them away, and he can't hesitate. And it's a it's what he has to do to keep his camp safe. And he has to not dither about it. And it's a message to everybody else who's 22 or 23 and thinking of coming back hungover, whatever, the kind of thing that can get you,
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
right? And but the message is I need responsible people. I need you to not only act your age, I need to act older than your age. You can't actually act like a college student when you have 11-year-olds in your care. And I have my eyes on you and I support you and I'm crazy about you and I'll fire your ass if you don't take good care of children, if you're not responsible. So as a parent, when you talk to a camp director, you have to know you have a camp director who has a big heart and a spine.
I think that's totally true. I think the camp directors that I engage with, you know, we know we do not take the trust that parents put in us lightly.
Yeah.
And also, many of us remember our own time at camp as being a magical time. And we want that for every kid, right? And so the people we seek to hire, we are going out being like, who do I want to be the role models that I had, right?
Right.
And I just think that's a great thing. Talking to the camp directors, they want to. Speaking from my vantage point, camp directors want to talk to parents. We view it as a partnership, right? And so we want to engage and engage with those families, get to know them, and it will go so far as in selecting that right camp.
I'm with you. Any
Um,
more?
yep. Okay. So you talked about friendship. What makes friendship unique at camp? You talked about it in your book.
Yeah, your mom doesn't know the other mom. Your mom isn't supervising the friendship. It's your friend. You have to make her. You have to tell her you want her to be your friend. You have to hang out with her, and you have to maintain the friendship. And it's not going to be supervised by an adult. It'll be observed by somebody 22
Right.
who appreciates that you've made a friend. But it isn't like having your friendship supervised by a 45-year-old teacher or a 45-year-old parent. And the main thing is it's your choice. And you have to do the work of maintaining the friendship. And maintaining friendships, human beings, as my psychoanalyst told me, are all more or less impossible. And I've always remembered that. Human beings are more or less impossible, and that's true if you're 11, it's true if you're 14, it's true if you're 17. And you have to forgive your friends and do some restorative uh, conversations if you've hurt each other's feelings and get on with it. And all of that's on you. And you don't have a parent to debrief you. And you don't have a teacher saying, I'm going to have the two of you sit apart because you're not good for the class. That at camp, you just get to do swim with your friends. It's a school of fish. That's what camp is at its best. It's a school of fish.
Yeah. Okay. I love this part because it's my favorite time at camp, and I love the part in the book that you talk about rest hour and downtime.
Yes.
Why is that important for kids right now? So often, if you're out there, many camps have a rest hour built into the day, where
Yes.
you're, where some camps require that you lay in a bed, some don't. Maybe you're playing cards, things like that, writing letters home.
If the
Um,
deal was y- 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 constant, unrelenting screen time and activities is exhausting for the soul. Sitting on your bed and reading, um, just hanging out, it helps you to deal with boredom. You can't go whine to your mom that you're bored. You just have to deal. And you also um, are free from the social pressure, uh, the group demands and the athletic demands. I mean, it's rest. It's good. Um, I mean, there's no 10-year-old in the world who thinks they need a nap anymore. They put that way behind them. Um, but downtime is, alone time is really good. Tom, I think you know that later on, as after I got out of high school, I went to uh, Outward Bound School,
yes.
and I was there for 30 days, and you know that they put you on a solo. It's a huge part of Outward Bound. I think Knowles does it too. I was on an island in Penobscot Bay uh, by myself for 2 nights and 3 days, and you learn a lot about yourself. I mean, that's prolonged alone time, but it's a different experience of yourself in the world. But I think a rest time is also a different experience, and I believe it. It's a change of pace.
So I got another question here, and we have about 10 minutes left with Michael. So if you have any other questions, please throw them in the chat. Um, Michael, I'm a dad with a child with a severe allergy,
Yes.
and that ramps up the anxiety level.
Yeah, yeah, huge.
And it could be an allergy, it could be diabetes, it could be celiac, it could be a number of different things, but we see it. How do how do you coach those parents as they're considering the camp experience? What would your advice to
Well,
those?
I did. Let's take for a moment about diabetes because I had a number of boys when I was at Belmont Hill who had a pretty rugged type 1 diabetes, and their parents had been managing their illness, but as they were moving their teenage years, they get resentful. They don't want to be managed, but they do need their medications. And so there's a handover that's done. And I am so indebted to Jocelyn camps where you go and everybody else is diabetic and everybody else is managing. I saw boys whose entire uh uh um who made a huge shift in their self-management and let go of a lot of their pity of self-pity by going to Jocelyn camp. So when you send a very allergic child off to camp, Tom, how old's your allergic child?
She's 16 now.
She's 16. And when did she take over management of her allergy in your mind?
Uh, ooh, I'm gonna say 12, 13,
When did she go to camp?
12 or 13. Yeah, you kind of nailed that one, didn't you? Uh, it's hard though. And
Well, especially the parents that you've been on it saving your child's life,
yes,
protecting her life, and to hand that over to her is hard. That's just hard. But you collect the evidence, you talk to the doctor, you say, we think she's ready, and you talk to her, and she wants to do it. But as I say, I I've seen some boys pretty medication avoidant diabetic boys who went off to Jocelyn camps. And because everybody else was managing, they managed. And
right.
it became theirs then. And they were proud of managing it.
Right. No, I think it definitely uh, has been a wonderful thing because now she's gone off to some other things on her own, knowing how to ask the right questions and care for herself and knows the feeling. And I would also encourage families to talk to the camp, make sure they've done something like this before. What's their plan? That's something that they definitely want to do.
You got
Um,
another question there about boys, getting more homesickness in boys.
Okay. We've been seeing in our program the boys are getting more severe homesickness over the last 10 years or so. Are
Yeah.
you seeing and hearing that as well? Have we considered the causes?
Well, I mean, as somebody who's written 3 books about boys, I think about boys all the time. And what I think is you need counselors who are willing to talk to boys about the fact that they're going to be homesick and it's going to hurt, and some of them are going to cry, and that they're going to get through it. And then go around. Uh, I I um I wrote in my book about Camp Beckett, a YMCA camp in Western Massachusetts, and they always turned out the lights at night and put a candle in the middle of the floor, and then had a talk in the dark,
Oh
a
yeah.
debrief of the day. And I loved it. It was kind of group therapy for run by college age counselors. And the women counselors were doing over it at the girls' camp, Chimney Corners, and the young men were doing it at Beckett. But boys with the lights out were willing to talk about missing home, missing a pet, and you knew it was a very emotional time for them. But if a young man can receive their pain, acknowledge it, and bear it, receive it, acknowledge it, and bear it, that will help a child bear it. So I'm in favor of kind of a little psychotherapeutic interventions with homesick boys. I don't want you to take them all off alone to have therapeutic talks with an adult. I want them to talk about it with each other.
And is that strategy different with girls?
No, I think girls tend to do it more normally with each
Yeah,
other. It's
right,
with boys, you kind of have to set the stage.
right. What if you get a call home? What if you're a parent, you get a call that your child is homesick? You know,
Well, you ask the camp director, how bad is it?
and what's the level of bad that like, we camp professionals, we oftentimes give an update. We'll give the update saying, "Hey, this is going on," because you might hear about it. What's the level that your level would be concerned?
So Tom, you and I know there's some camp directors have a very um, down to earth approach. There are some kids who get so brutally homesick that the camp director says, probably not a camper.
Hmm.
And I talked with a fellow author, wonderful man named Doug Stone, who told me that he went to camp. It was the worst days of his life. He said, I just couldn't manage it. Nobody could manage it. And it was terrible. And it never stopped being terrible. And they sent him home, and he was immensely relieved. And he came to the conclusion that he wasn't a camper. But I have a story about my son Will, because he went off to a camp, um, which I was a consultant, and he was pretty homesick. And when I was reading Chris Thurber's research, I read what Chris says that 6% of kids have unrelenting homesickness. And I knew my son was in the significant distress group, 19%, but a third of them have unrelenting homesickness. And when I read this, my son was in college. He was 19. He never was homesick in college and anything. But Will came home and I said to him, I've been reading Chris Thurber's research. I'm writing this book about camps. Will, did you have unrelenting homesickness? Were you homesick pretty much all day, every day, the first month you went off to camp? And he said, yes, Dad. And I felt terrible. And I said to him, why, why did you go back the second year? You and your mom could have outvoted me. She was never a camper. She didn't have it in her bones. It would have been 2-1. You could have outvoted me. Why did you go back for a second year? And he leaned towards me and he said, Dad, if you can't learn to sleep away from home, it means you have to live with your parents for the rest of your life. And he said that sentence, and I knew it had to go into the book. But my own son was telling me I was willing to go through some pain to grow up, right? He knew it was painful to learn to sleep away from home. But if you don't do it, then what? You don't grow up.
Yes, and one thing we say often is there are many aspects of camp. There's so much growth that happens, and some of that comes from being uncomfortable, going through, it's not gonna be sunny every day, right?
Nope.
And it's that those are the stories too that years later the kids will recount, right? And say, "Oh, it was that day that was the memory that made me who I am." Um,
So at the end of the second year, my son said to me, Dad, I get the camp thing, but this is the wrong camp for me.
mm,
And he wanted to go to an arts camp, and he did. And he became a junior counselor and a counselor, and he went on to art school, and he taught kids woodworking at summer camp, and he's now a second grade teacher. And I think camp changed his life, but it wasn't the camp I'd originally picked for him.
mm.
It was the arts camp. But what I loved is that he said to me at the end of the second year, he said, Dad, I get the camp thing. And I knew what he was saying. Um, and he went off to this arts camp. He had his first girlfriend. He had his first heartbreak. He had everything, right? And I wasn't there to see it.
So good. I'm gonna say one thing. I can't speak for all camps, but please, parents, if you're still on here, know that many camps call to say happy things too. It's not always that your child is homesick or they're sick. We love to call and say this is a cool thing that just happened. All right, we just got a minute or two left here, Michael. I appreciate your time. So as we close, here's my question for you. If you could tell every camp parent one thing before their child leaves for camp, what would it be?
Your child's going to be more grown up when they get back from camp, and they will surprise you. You will be filled with respect and admiration because you'll see your child in a new light because she will actually be different. He will be different.
That is great. Um, Everyone, parents, I'm going to plug it again here. Homesick
For
and
the
Happy.
third time.
Homesick and Happy by Dr. Michael Thompson. If you have boys, I have a son. This is a still fantastic book here, Michael.
Thank you.
It is amazing, called Raising Cain, about raising boys, New York Times bestseller. Michael, over the years, I've met some people in the camping industry. I am so glad I met you all those years ago, and
And
I'm
me
so
too.
grateful.
Tom, it's been a wonderful friendship and colleagueship. Thanks
Yes.
for having me on.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, to talk to camp directors, to talk to parents, and everyone listening. Have a wonderful summer. We can't wait to get those kids to camp this summer. Michael, thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Tom.
Bye.